Greetings, Augustana Geoscientists. In the past, we've oftentimes run an Udden Club meeting on summer internships and geology field camps and other kinds of opportunities to get you thinking about things. Because we're running out of time this fall, I decided to make a short video and bring some of these opportunities to your attention in case you've got questions. You can always come talk to me or any of the other geology faculty about any of your goals, or if you have questions about things you might be able to do over the summer that will be part of your experience at Augustana and towards gaining valuable experience towards your major. So this particular presentation, we're talking about what you can do during the summer to gain valuable experience that could help you towards graduate programs or towards careers and so forth. So let's talk about some of these opportunities. Okay, how are you going to start? How are you going to approach this task? First thing you want to do is simply sit down and think about yourself and what your interests are, what appeals to you, what you're really good at. This reflection is really, really important for everybody because everybody's a little bit different in what really jazzes you about the science or about life, what your goals are, and you need to be thinking about what's right for you and what you're really good at. So be thinking about your interests, your skills, your qualifications, what else about your major or minor or your GPA that really qualifies you for any kind of a position. What's your financial situation? Do you need income over the summer? And then finally, really, what are your own personal goals and professional goals? What are you trying to get out of any of this? So you need to think about this kind of stuff. You've got a platform. Many of you have started your own e-portfolio already, and that's a platform for personal reflection. You can put some of this on there, but you can just do this on your own. Step 2, each and every one of you should be have a working draft of a resume. Create a resume early on in your college experience and update it regularly. Make sure that resume has lots of information and it's up to date on skills you have, particularly things that would make you desirable for anybody who might want to hire you. We have resources at CORE, of course, to help you on that process, but even better than that is our own resource within this department, and that's Susan Wolf. And most of you have worked with her before. If you haven't, do so. Make an appointment to go see her, sit down and talk about what you want to do, and she'll get you going, can give you a template on a resume, and can really work with you on how to make your resume look really, really slick. And you probably want several different versions of resumes depending on what you're applying to. Step number 3, you want to establish online profiles, especially towards getting jobs. So LinkedIn is a really important resource towards getting jobs, and it's a really great way to network with potential employers. So make sure you've got a LinkedIn profile and you start making connections on that. Other online profiles you really should establish. USA Jobs is necessary for any job within the federal government. So that would include the Army Corps of Engineers and national parks in a lot of cases. And that takes a little time to get your profile established there. But once you've got it, that's the big work done. Then you can apply for a lot of jobs. AmeriCorps, which is a program for funding for projects done in the United States domestically, typically oftentimes after students graduate, that has a different online application process. Step 4, explore your opportunities and your resources. And this is something you should actually be doing all along. Networking, networking, networking. Talk to people, get information, think about what appeals to you, what your own goals are. So Udden Club is one of the most important things that you can participate on to expand your horizons, to get tips, to know about opportunities within the department and otherwise. Just a really important thing for you to do. We realize not everybody can go every week, but that's why we do it. It's really your chance for professional development and to get to know about opportunities. Professional meetings are really important, and cruising web pages like the Geological Society of America. That's going to help you understand become familiar with a lot of other opportunities. Just cruise the internet. Type in search words for things that appeal to you. And we'll also occasionally send you emails if there are opportunities, like summer research opportunities. We'll send you emails, so make sure you're always reading your emails and you're staying up to date on those. Lastly, we actually have, especially in the basement of this building, bulletin boards, and things get posted there. You might spend a little bit of time looking at some of the bulletin boards. They tend to have older stuff sometimes, but you ought to be looking at some of the bulletin boards in the basement computer lab, and you'll find it down there. And then we also archive really useful material on GeoDrive that should be able to help you. Each of you should have access to this. And when you open it up, you'll see it now is organized into different folders, and you really should take a look at some of these folders. In this one for research opportunities, internships, and professional development, you can see some subfolders. And here's a really important one. These are opportunities for this specific year. When we hear about them, we'll put some of these in for like graduate programs, jobs, internships, RUs, which is research experiences for undergraduates. So we begin to load some of this stuff here. So you can find this, and here's a job for a hydrogeologist or hydrologist with the USGS. We'll try to post things here for you as we hear about them. We also have a file here that it's not always up to date, but we try to add to it on occasion. Employers, jobs, internships, alumni contacts, and you can find that on GeoDrive. And this has lots of lists, contacts of environmental consulting companies and other employers. Some of them are local or regional, and then others are elsewhere in the country. This is not a really well-organized list, nor is it up to date, but we try to add to it from time to time, so it's a good starting point for many of you. Okay. So things that you can do. Let's start with this experience that we sometimes just call field camp or geology field camp. This is not something that's going to appeal to everybody, but many of you, this would be something you really want to be thinking about. If you love doing field work, and especially if you're thinking about going to graduate school or working in the field for a job, attending a geology field camp can be a very beneficial experience. We don't offer one at Augustana, obviously, but there are a lot of really good ones. I think this link should take you to a list. I'll let you explore that on your own. You can just Google it. You could say, list of geology field camps in the United States or something like that. These are programs that are typically geared for students when they're in college or right after they graduate, so between the juniors and senior year, or sometimes right after you graduate. It can be a really good way to enter into a graduate program. So if you're interested in, say, going to graduate school at, say, Illinois State University, I would say take a look at their field camp. They've got a fantastic field camp, and you get to know a bunch of the professors and graduate students and undergraduates on that field camp, and it's a really solid program. So oftentimes attending a field camp that's offered by a school that has a graduate program that you're looking into can really help you. The other really great thing that can happen is if you go to that and then their field camp and then you're in graduate school, if you do a really good job, chances are good they'll ask you to come back as a teaching assistant, so then you can get paid for going back a second year and having a lot of fun doing that. Field camps emphasize developing skills of working in the field, how you collect data, how you make maps, how you interpret the data, and so forth. So it's a bit like what we do on the Mojave J-term program, but at the next level up. We get a little taste of it on the Mojave program, but it's really about how you operate in the field, and then you are challenged to make these big geologic interpretations. It is really challenging. Most of these camps are physically challenging, and they will challenge your brain. It's not a really easy experience, but it's a lot of fun, and many of you would really enjoy this. I loved my field camp experience. So I went to Indiana University's field camp, which is run mostly in Montana, and some of the geology was spectacular. Worked with a really fun group of students. There was a wide variety of different kinds of programs. Some of them have base camps that are well established, have been there for decades, and they run out of those base camps. Others of them are traveling camps, and they also have a range of cost. So you can expect that one of these programs, which is typically like a 3 to 6 credit program, so worth like 1.5 to 2, 1 to 2 college courses, maybe 1.5 college courses with Augustana credits. They cost somewhere in the range of $4,000 to $6,000. If you take this while you're an Augie student or in the summer after you graduate, we can usually help subsidize that to about $1,000 a person. So we can make that more affordable for you. We really encourage students to do this, but we realize this is more tuition, but it's usually multiple courses that you are taking, and they're like 4 to 6 week programs. So you're in the field quite a bit. So some examples of these field camps. Southern Illinois University runs a really great field camp. So Alexa Perot took their field camp in the summer of 2022 and had a great time. That spends most of its time in Montana and Wyoming. Illinois State University has another really solid one, also in South Dakota and Wyoming. If you go on one of these programs that's in the Northern Rocky Mountains, many of you are already familiar with the stratigraphy if you went on Geology 105. So there are really some great programs. There's a whole bunch of them. Something a little bit different is the Juneau Ice Fields Research Program. It's not really a geology field camp, but we had one student go on this program a number of years ago, Matt Osman. He was really interested in topics of global climate change and ice cores and so forth. And this program emphasizes mountaineering, ice climbing, and research in snow and ice fields. And it's a multi-week program in Alaska. So there's another one you might take a look at if that kind of stuff appeals to you. Here's a geology field camp that I was a part of back in the 1990s. This was Lehigh University's field camp. This particular picture was taken in the Copper Basin of central Idaho. Really a fantastic place to work. See, this one was a really big program back then. They still have a field camp that they run. It's kind of slimmed down to a smaller group, but another one that has an excellent reputation. There's a lot of them out there, so find the one that works into your schedule and that you can afford and is going to be right for you. Summer research opportunities. We'll switch gears here. There are a lot of opportunities for students to take part in research projects. Some of these, they actually pay you to work on them. If they've got especially funding from the National Science Foundation, the big funding program is called REU, the Research Experiences for Undergraduates. That is all National Science Foundation funding that comes through different universities and colleges. They change from year to year, the different opportunities and types of research that are available, opportunities that are available to you. But the basic idea is to get students engaged in some cutting edge research. Oftentimes they go to some pretty cool places. Students are participating in field work and or lab work. Sometimes they're really focused on analytical work in laboratories, and sometimes they're really focused on field work. There's a wide variety of these kinds of REU programs, and we've had students most recently, Tyler's REU in New Mexico and Jack's REU program at the National Museum of Natural History in New York City. Both of those programs involve travel. Those kinds of programs, they pay for your way out there typically. They give you enough money for lodging or accommodate your lodging, and they give you a stipend on top of that. So you actually are getting paid So if you're worried about making some money over the summer, this is usually enough to offset what would typically, be a summer job at sort of minimum wage. You can make a fair amount of money doing this. There are other opportunities for internships, some of which are paid, some of which are unpaid. A lot of these you have to kind of set up yourself. Sort of internships working with companies and so forth. If you've got connections, you might be able to do something like that. We can work with people sometimes to design your own kind of summer research project, particularly towards your senior inquiry. Again, you have to figure out where money comes from. You generally won't be paid for something like that, and might help you towards your senior inquiry. Just want to mention that there's lots of funding, especially through the REU programs that are really targeting students of color and other underrepresented groups in the sciences. So bear that in mind as you're looking at some of these, and if you can use that to your advantage, I encourage you to do that. A lot of these kind of programs have application deadlines in January or February, so you really want to be looking at them, say, in December and over the holiday break. So here's a link to research experiences for undergraduates, or you can just Google it. There's other subsets of these that we've had students working on, and I'm positive these are all active. But the IRIS internships, which is also REU funding, this is in seismology and geophysics, so some really cool opportunities there. We've had students spend a summer at the Carnegie Institute in Washington, D.C. They have a summer scholars program. That, again, is also generally REU funding. I'm not positive it still is active, but you can check these out. And then also there's a consortium of colleges in the United States that Augustana is not part of, but it's called the Keck Geology Consortium, and they have research experiences available, some of them for sophomores, so you can check out their webpage. Again, I didn't take the time to make sure everything is up to date, so you can explore on your own. You can typically get research grants through Augustana if you're kind of on top of things. Sometimes you can get up to $500 for research-related experiences. So make sure you explore opportunities to get funding through Augustana that might help you design your own research programs. The geology department oftentimes can help students out on their senior inquiry research, typically up to about $1,000 for each student to pursue senior inquiry work. And that can be used also for funding summer opportunities. So for instance, we helped Michaela take part in her summer research project at the Burpee Museum through some department funding. So if you're interested in that, you should come talk to the chair. Okay, so you also want to be thinking about senior inquiry, especially if you're a junior. Start thinking about it early. What kinds of research projects might appeal to you? And the best way to be thinking about that oftentimes is to come to Udden Club and hear what other students are doing. So kind of get clued in into some really cool projects that other students are working on their SI. Also, we have a great resource here right on campus, and you all know about it, the Upper Mississippi Center, and that organization has research opportunities for students during the summer here, not just after the junior year, but a lot of students get engaged on that even after their first or second year at Augustana. Typically, they've had projects working on water resources and water quality in local small streams, urban streams in the Quad Cities, and the ecosystems of them, looking at environmental geochemistry and so forth. And most of you are aware also microplastics research that Bree and Ewell have taken part in, and also this past summer in 2023 they had a big project in Rock Island to assess the lead service lines, the water lines in the city of Rock Island. Not really geological necessarily, but can be a really great experience. I also should have put this on the slide, also Dr. Wolf's ongoing studies of radon. So there are other opportunities you can work on locally that we can work with you individually on. A few other ideas. GeoCorps. This is a partnership between the Geological Society of America and the National Park System, and there are lots of there are opportunities for positions every summer through the GeoCorps. So you should look at some of those and pay attention to the application deadlines. That can be a great summer project. Sometimes you're working like as a sort of a park ranger or doing backcountry maintenance and that kind of work. Pretty rigorous work sometimes, but some great opportunities. So pay attention to deadlines. Related to that, also in the national parks, there's a separate program called Scientists in the Park. And we've had at least one student in recent years has gotten jobs working on that. So you kind of embed yourself in a national park and you're a scientist who's leading programs and talking about the geology and the natural history. So we could help you also design your own internship. You have to do some of the legwork. Let's say you wanted to try to spend a summer working with the Illinois State Geological Survey and doing something with them. We can help you make connections with them or the Army Corps of Engineers, which usually has money for students. They have jobs. You have to go through the USA job site. Illinois State Geological Survey, we've had some students in the past work with them, and we can help send your $1,000 for SI work if you are able to collaborate with them on something. Or you may find a local company or some company in your hometown and you want to kind of get an internship with them, and if they don't have money to pay you, again, we can use this $1,000 for SI work towards that if it's something that you can build into your senior inquiry. So there are other opportunities for your own sort of internship experiences. A lot of environmental consulting companies will maybe even pay you for summer work. It may not be glamorous work. In many cases, you won't have much field work because you may not have the training through OSHA to be able to work in the field, but you may have a lot of work to do in their office, say doing GIS work and organizing their databases, spreadsheets, and so forth, helping them write reports. So it's worth making some contacts there if that's a direction that you're interested in. So my words of advice, some repetition here. Yeah, have your resume always updated. Keep reflecting on yourself and your experiences. Talk to a lot of people. Networking is so critical. You want to get information from as many people as possible, and you want to make connections as much as possible. Always explore your options. You have to be really flexible, especially if you're talking about a first job after college. Usually your first job, if you're right out of college, is not going to be the job of your dreams. It's going to be a stepping stone to another job. So always be exploring your options. If you've got a position, be thinking about how that could launch you into a different position. So you want to really explore, take the time to think about this and talk to people and figure out what your options are. And every job you have gives you experience that you can use towards the next position. I can't say enough about this line, especially if you're applying to graduate schools. But oftentimes students list us as references for jobs, and I may get a call from somebody say, tell me about this student. You want to give us lots of positive things to say about you. That means, being in class on time, submitting assignments on time, doing a great job, presentations, being able to give really good talks. So give us some ammunition that we can use when we're responding to these people, say for letters of recommendation for graduate schools or potential employers may call us. You want us to have a bunch of things that are good to say about you. Also about how you work with people. Are you a team leader? Do you get along with other people? That's really important for employers. They want to know that they're hiring somebody who's going to get along with their existing staff. When you're communicating with people, you always need to be professional, not just with your faculty here, but with other professionals in the fields. If you're reaching out to, say, an environmental consulting company, don't just send a short, informal email. You want to send an email that is perfect and has no spelling errors in it whatsoever. You want to be professional and very, very respectful, always in your communications. You can be less formal once you get to know them sometimes, but assume that these are people who can make decisions that may affect you for the rest of your life. So start formal, start professional, and always treat people with respect. When it comes to letters of recommendation, you, especially for graduate schools and so forth, you need to give professors a lot of lead time to prepare these. We don't just whip them out in 5 minutes. We don't use a standard form. Every letter is different. So you want to give us several weeks to prepare a letter, and you want to give us all the information, like what are your goals in this graduate school program? What are you really trying to get out of this, and how do you see yourself as a good fit? So give us a lot of lead time. I actually even have a little form that I made at one point that you can use if that helps. But you know, what's really going to be helpful for applying, you can use this form if you want. So that's embedded in a link here. So this slides presentation will be shared in the YouTube video link. You can look in the link below. All right. And that, I think, is the end of the show. If you have any other questions, you can talk to any of the faculty.